So we've just looked at price quantity pairs. Instead of price discrimination with respect to quantity, a monopolist might instead price discriminate with respect to quality. So a monopolist might offer different price quality pairs. So this is called versioning. So one example of versioning is with airline tickets. You have different versions. You have a first class, a business class, economy. But these are different versions of the same basic good, and they represent different qualities. So first class is the highest quality, economy is the lowest quality. So one other example is with mobile phones. You often have different storage capacities. So a higher storage capacity represents a higher quality, and a lower storage capacity represents a lower quality. So there's a link here where you can provide your own examples and see what other examples students have contributed. So how do we analyze this? Well, it turns out we've actually done everything we need to do, because we can just reinterpret the quantity as quality instead. So now the Q stands for quality. We can think of a demand curve over quality instead of quantity. So the consumer has the choice of either not consuming or consuming 1 unit of the good of a quality Q. Because consumers' willingness to pay for an increase in quality decreases with quality, the demand curve over quality will be downward sloping, just as the demand curve over quantity. So our previous analysis for quantity showed that the quantity sold to the L-type consumer was disordered downwards compared to the efficient quantity. So applying our previous analysis to quality, we can conclude that the quality of the lowest quality good will be distorted downwards compared to the efficient quality. So let's look at a specific example of versioning. So one example of versioning is with the Intel chips. Quite a while ago now, Intel produced the 486DX chip. As well as producing the DX, they also had a version called the SX. Now the two chips were actually the same, except the SX version, which was a budget version, had the integrated maths coprocessor disabled. So in order to produce the SX chip, they actually disabled something on the DX version. And because disabling the coprocessor was costly, actually the SX cost slightly more to make. The 486SX sold for $333 and the 486DX for $588. So we have an example here of versioning. This is actually what's called a damaged good. They've damaged the high quality version to produce a lower quality version. So let's look at a numerical example. So we have two types of consumers, high value and low value, and the number of high value consumers is 3, the number of low value consumers is 1, or you can think of it as 1 million and 3 million. And the willingness to pay here is in the table. So for the 486DX, it's 600 and 400, and for the SX, it's 300 and 350. Now, the high value consumers in this example, they really need that maths code processor because they need to do numerical computations, which are sped up by this maths code processor. So actually, they're willing to pay less for the SX than the low value consumers, but more for the DX. And this makes the problem quite easy for the monopolist. So what should they do? Well, here we're going to assume a zero marginal cost for the chips. So what if they just offered the DX chip and didn't offer the damaged good, the SX chip? If it offers just one of the chips, it would want to offer the DX because both consumers are willing to pay more for that chip than the other chip, and the costs are the same. So what price should they offer the DX chip at? Well, there are two options here. Either they price at 600 and sell only to the high value consumers, or they price at 400 and sell to both groups. So if they offer only the 486DX at 400, what is the profit? It's 400, the price, times the number of consumers, so the number here is 1 plus 3, they sell to both groups, which is 1600. Alternatively, they sell at 600, and the profit is 600 times 3, the number of high-value consumers. So in this case, the profit from selling only to the high-value consumers is more than the profit from selling to both types of consumers. The alternative is to offer both types of chips, and so let's think about what will be the optimal prices. So they're offering a price quality menu. There's a menu of 2 qualities. What are the optimal prices? Well, here it's quite easy. The optimal price for the SX is $350 and the optimal price for the DX is $600. So we don't have the issue here of the high value consumer wanting to buy the option meant for the low value consumer because they're actually willing to pay less for the SX than the low value consumer. And the profit is $350, the price of the SX times the number of low value consumers, plus $600, the price of the DX times the number of high value consumers, and that gives us $2,150. So clearly, offering both versions is more profitable because it enables the monopolist to also sell to the low value consumers while keeping the price for the high value consumers high. In this case, they didn't have to lower this price at all. In an example where we have to worry about that incentive compatibility constraint, then we will have to lower the price for the high quality. So versioning can allow a monopolist to sell to both groups without lowering the price for the high quality or without lowering it too much. So that's all summarized in the red box there. So the DX and SX chips produced by Intel are just one example of a damaged good. Some other examples here. So Sony mini discs, they came out between CDs and MP3s, so around that time. And they didn't become widely popular, but they were very popular in Japan. They came in 2 sizes. So we had 60-minute mini discs and 74-minute mini discs. There was no physical difference between the 2 discs. It's just that the 60-minute version had some instructions encoded on it that stopped it recording more than 60 minutes. IBM had a printer, so they had 2 versions of a laser printer. So they introduced the IBM Laser Printer E, and it was a low-cost version of the laser printer. They were apparently identical, but the E version had firmware that slowed down the printing speed. And the last example here is one that actually wasn't carried out but was considered. So plastic molding powder was sold to industrial users at 85 cents per pound and to dental manufacturers at $22 per pound. So because of this very large difference in prices, people would try to buy the cheap version for industrial users and sell it to dental manufacturers. So there's an opportunity for arbitrage here. So in order to stop this arbitrage, one of the suppliers considered mixing arsenic in the version sold for industrial use, which would then obviously make it useless for the dental manufacturers. So you might want to think of other examples of damaged goods. So you can go to that link and provide examples if you want.